Welcome back, everybody, to Pop Culture Warrior. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Oh, you've been expecting this all night. My guest tonight is an incredible actress of stage and screen whose multifaceted career spans from Broadway to feature films, television, video games, animation, original online content. Most recently, you've seen her enter the MCU as Auntie Ruby on the Disney Plus hit show Miss Marvel. On television and film, she's been seen as being on Netflix special Joa. Sorry, I got mixed up my words. Joa on Alex Inc., Tiger Mom, Nina Patel on ABC's hit comedy Modern Family. Other notable appearances include Marvel's Runaways, SWAT, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Silicon Valley, Criminal Minds, NCIS Los Angeles, The Sopranos, and so much more. Since 2016, she has been known worldwide as the voice of the reality-bending hero Symmetra in Blizzard Entertainment's wildly popular video game Overwatch, along with other gaming heroes and villains such as Rampart in Apex Legends, Nisha from Fallout 4, Yasmin in Fallout 76, just to name a few. There is so much to talk about with this woman and not nearly enough time to cover it all. So let's dive straight in. Everyone, please give a huge round of applause and a welcome to Anjali Bhimani, everybody.
Hello. Oh my goodness, I want you to be my hype man everywhere. That was the loveliest introduction.
Thank you.
I feel like it's all downhill from here. That was
No, not at all. Don't you dare. I am so freaking excited. There's so much to cover. There's so much to talk about. As I get myself under control, bring myself to center, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask every guest. First one out the gate. What is your military connection?
You know, there is one thing that I have noticed about all of the people that I have met who are either veterans or who are currently serving, either on leave or whatever, whether it is my father-in-law who served, whether it is, family, friends, everything. And that is this amazing sense of perspective of what really matters in life. And I think we civilians have a tendency to struggle with that because folks in the military make it possible, give us the luxury of struggling with that, whereas they are putting themselves out there every single day to make sure that we have the freedom to be able to explore, to be able to have that safety, to be able to have that sense of confusion. You guys know, they just know, they know what matters. And so while I don't have dear friends in the military, I feel a deep connection to them because I feel like it's because of the military that I am allowed to live the life that I am. And I'm wildly, wildly grateful for it. Wildly grateful for what
We
they do.
appreciate it. Hey, a supporter of the military. The fact that you're here speaks volumes. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you for momentarily being part of the community. We're gonna put our arms around you and we're gonna pull you in.
I'm so excited. I remember working with Gary Sinise and us talking about it too, because he's such a huge supporter of vets and whatnot, and how special it is, especially when you're an artist and people don't necessarily think of those two things being so linked. But what you do, what folks in the military do is so noble. And it gives the peace that it gives us. All I want to do is give back.
Awesome. Thank you. So now let's talk about you. Let's put the spotlight on you. Now I love, we're going to talk about all the things you've done and all the lives you've touched and all the different aspects you've played in and all these different things. But first, I want to get to know you. The internet can only tell me so much, and I've done my homework. So for instance, I know that you started playing Dungeons and Dragons when you were just 8 years old.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. That means you've automatically got the geek cred. You've got it.
Oh, 100%. Whether cred or not, I've been a geek since day one. Day one.
So what are you geeking out about right now? Like what's your go-to geek stuff?
I mean, I gotta be honest, it's still role-playing games. I still love them so much. I feel like it in so many ways, they are like an educational tool for us to find out more about ourselves, to learn more about the world, to learn more about teamwork, to learn about collaboration, to learn about emotional parts of ourselves that we may not have access to in our day-to-day lives, because now we get to step into these characters that are different from ourselves and have these different worlds that they are a part of. As an actor, I love playing TTRPGs so much, and I'm so grateful that it has now become a part of my career to play them,
Mm.
because as an actor, you don't necessarily have the agency to really create your characters and what they say and what they do as much as you do in an RPG. So you have this wonderful sense of being a part of the narrative, a part of the story. You get to play at the same time as you get to perform. It's just, I still, in fact, I was literally just opening a box of some new RPG books that I have from the Spelljammer series. Literally just opened it. They're right there on the floor in the plastic, and I'm so excited to open them. So that's largely what I'm geeking out a lot on right now. Also, there's just been so much great television recently that is like I guess it would be called science fiction, but it's so close to reality that it's a little bit like, is this a drama or is this science fiction? Can't quite tell. Super geeking out on Severance right
Mm.
now, the Apple TV show, Apple TV Plus show. And I have been reading it's an old series, well, not an old series, but it's not a new series, called Behind the Throne, which is a sci-fi series of books that I'm super getting into. So a little bit of everything, along with work and
Be still my heart.
playing other people for a living, and
Mm.
getting to play games, or be characters in games and make silly voices and all sorts of fun stuff. But I think those are the three main geekeries that I have right now.
Mm.
And then my longstanding love for Star Trek, all things Star Trek, which is just like, that's a constant in my world.
Okay. Okay. Well, then you might appreciate this. Recently, once things started opening up again, I get to travel to different conventions and do different things. So, as a D&D fan, I got to go to GaryCon, which is a huge convention for,
Yeah.
obviously the founder of D&D. And just a few weeks ago, got to go to Shore Leave, which is a huge Star Trek, Star Wars. Well, more Star Trek. It's more like the that side of but they've opened it up to others,
Right.
sci-fi experiences. But so I've got to do that, which was so cool after 2-3 years of being.
Aren't conventions the best?
I was
They
at,
are
that's what I
just
wanted to ask you. I know you do a ton of these conventions. Like, what is it about the conventions that gets you excited to go and to be there with the people?
I can give you a soundbite right now, and it's what excites me about as an attendee. It excites me as a guest. I love conventions because they are a place to celebrate the thing you love and be celebrated for loving the thing you love. Everybody who goes there is excited about something and excited about sharing that something and their love for that something or some things with other people. Like, I wish that we could take the energy of a convention more out into the real world, because there's such a sense of community based on what you love, not conflict based on what you hate.
Mm, mm,
It's like, I feel like the real world right now is flipped on its head, and conventions are like, no, that's how it should be. People get to cosplay and step into these roles that they love so much and that they admire so much, and people celebrate them for it. Vendors get to share all of this creativity and artistry that they have. I can't leave a convention without like 7 sets of dice. I always leave with more dice. I have like it's like jewelry for gamers. I love it so much. But yeah, the just what's at the heart of conventions, I think, is enthusiasm,
mm.
is the love of something. And I don't think you can get any better than that. It's a very unifying feeling.
I want to do the take them to church. Amen. Preach. Like I get it. So I'm giddy inside. I'm trying to like
Like,
hold it
yeah,
in.
hallelujah.
Oh
Let's go
my
to
God.
convention.
It's so yes, everything you're
Get
saying
it,
is
right? You get
mm,
it. Like, if you win, you get it.
so good. I'm trying to contain because I just want to be screaming over you like, hey, pay attention, people, listen. She's telling you. You're so good. And guys, before I forget, if you're out there in the chats, feel free to say hi. Feel free to throw in your questions. I will share them with her and we will answer them as always. I already got a bunch of I think I may be in love. So
Oh,
you've
you
got that
guys,
you got that going for
stop.
you.
No, stop. Really stop.
Stop.
I
Um,
appreciate
and
it.
let
I
me tell you
appreciate
something. My audience is not one to give a lot of compliments. So when you get
No,
it,
I mean, I appreciate
it's
that, like, the
sincere.
standards are high for y'all. There's a high bar. I appreciate it. So I will take the compliment graciously, and with gratitude and with honor. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so more about you. You were born in Cleveland, Ohio, but were
Yes,
raised in Orange County, California.
that's right.
Your parents were both doctors who actually met doing a play.
You have done your research. Wow, I love this.
So I'm curious, what was that like growing up for you? Because obviously you have this very, I mean, to be a doctor, that is academia, that is the pinnacle, right? That's the top. That's one of the most revered professions. But obviously there's that love of theater. There's that love of the theatrics. So what was that like for you growing up in that household?
I mean, look, when you grow up with your own family, you don't realize how special they are until you have experiences with other people, with other experiences, right? So at the time, well, particularly when I was younger, I didn't realize just how incredible it was. I loved my family and always have and always will, but I just didn't really get how lucky I was. I think at the time, it's so easy to take it for granted. My parents and my brother too, who is, he's a giant internet security god, and does all of this amazing stuff, and is like the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life, and likely will ever meet, and one of the kindest people and the most fun people. So my whole family is full of people who have this wonderful, I don't want to say balance, because balance is boring. You don't want anything to be completely equal. A seesaw at balance doesn't move. It's boring. But they have this wonderful sense of like being able to juggle their artistic side and their scientific side, and their logical side and their creative side. The whole experience of growing up was a celebration of everything that you are. We had amazing, really like heated but respectful debates about everything at the dinner table. It was respected to have an opinion. It was respected to have a strong opinion about something and to stand your own and to say, no, let's look in the encyclopedia and check it out. And our giant wall of books behind the dinner table, let's do all of those things. So it was just the most extraordinary. The older I get, the more I realize how incredibly lucky I was. And yeah, my parents met doing a play in medical school, because medical students have so much free time, and just that alone, that they were exercising their creativity while they were also following this career in medicine, is just a testament to how they live their lives. They live their lives artistically, and they brought that artistry to surgery, and they brought the precision of medicine to the artistic lives that they led. And so it was just phenomenal. And I'm very, very lucky. I mean, obviously I keep saying I'm so lucky. I know how lucky I am, but one of the many reasons I'm lucky is that despite the culture that I come from, the Indian culture, being historically seeming like a very traditional culture, and maybe a lot of kids not being encouraged to go into the arts, my parents just cared that I went into something that I loved, that I was good at it, and that I could make my own way
Mm,
with it.
yeah.
And I really do think all parents, even if they don't necessarily express it the way that you wish they would, all parents just want their kids to be safe. They want them to be able to make their own way, and they want them to be happy. It's just that a lot of parents think that they know better how to do that than their kids. And God bless them, my parents trusted me that, like, once I showed that I was serious about a career in the arts, once I showed I want to go to college, I want to do all these things, I want to take the lessons, I want to do all this, they said, "Great. We are 100% behind you. Your graduation gift will be being on your own and having to find your own way, and that will be wonderful." But they gave me that freedom to say, "Yeah, this is what I want to do, and I will prove to you that I can do it to the best of my ability, and that if I'm not good at it, I won't do it."
Mm.
And I think that commitment to excellence that they followed in their careers, in their medical professions, that was really the foundation for anything that I would do. I just lucked out that instead of having to pay for medical school and be a doctor that way, I decided to just play doctors on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this way I don't have to worry about it being a life or death for anyone else. I don't think I've killed anyone with my acting yet. It's possible that someday I will do that badly, but I'm really hoping not.
You might have broken some hearts. You might have broken some
Ah,
hearts.
no,
Speaking of your college days, you want to shout out Northwestern? What's that? Woo, woo.
yes, go Wildcats, go Cats. I love Northwestern. Again, such a continuation of what we're talking about. I very much wanted to go to a liberal arts program because I wanted to have a full education. And one of the things that I love about Northwestern's theater program is that it was a theater program. It wasn't an acting program. So when you learned about the theater there, you had to learn, you learned your acting, you learned theater history, you learned costume design, you learned set design, you learned sound design, you learned dramaturgy. You were a combination of, being on stage in a play and washing people's dirty laundry in the costume crew at night. So you walked out of there with not just an understanding of how everything works, but a respect for every single member of the cast and crew, because you understood that you were one cog in a very big wheel, and that even if you were the face of the play, you were just the tiniest part of what made it go. And I think that's a very valuable thing that not all people, not all performers get to have. I think a lot of times, without being too negative, I think there are a lot of people that don't realize that they are not the center of that universe.
Kind of replaceable, right? The piece of
Well,
the
not even replaceable, but just you have to always remember that you are a part of a team. You are a part of this giant machine. You are not the machine. You are not the only reason this show is happening. Anytime you see a Broadway show, what you see on stage is like somewhere between 1/4 and 1/10 of what is going on backstage. There's so many things happening, and it's the same way with movies, with games, with uh, there's an army of people coming together to make this happen. So when you realize that you're not that important, what's important is that you do your best.
Mm.
That's important, because you don't want to let everybody else down. Everybody else is pulling their weight, you got to pull your weight too.
That's
And
so good.
that Northwestern very much teaches you that.
That's amazing.
Oh, Northwestern. See, everybody should send their kids there. I should be hitting up the alumni association and being like, dudes, I just did a commercial for you
Huge
on this
plug,
podcast.
huge plug.
Not
We'll clip it. We'll clip it and send it. That's the next commercial. Everything you said, it strikes me so amazingly. It speaks to my military experience, right? We're all part of there's the objective, there's the big thing this production, and every part is equal. I was an infantry guy, I was a grunt, I was a door kicker. Like we swear up and down, right? We win the fights, but we need the cooks, we need the mechanics, we need the
Yeah.
supply clerks, we need the guy to process my paperwork, my payments, like the HR guy. Like you need all of it.
Yeah.
You need all of it.
And
So
also you start to understand the difference between confidence and ego.
mm,
I think a lot of people mistake the two. I think a lot of people think that arrogance is confidence, and it's very much different. When you're arrogant, you think that you are the only reason that the world revolves. When you're confident, you understand that you are a part of why the world revolves, and that if you don't, offer, if you don't bring your best, the world will miss out. So you got to give the unique and powerful contribution that you have, that only you can bring. But if you are not here, there are other people who will lift that up. Like you just can't. I just, especially as an actor, I think it's so easy for people to get so self-centered and to forget the big picture.
mm,
And there is no acting without an audience. There's no acting without a playwright. There's no acting without a screenwriter. There's no acting without, like, if there's no light on, no one going to see you. So in a way, I think theater school should be humbling,
mm, right.
because there's way too much, especially in the arts, there's way too much in entertainment, where you could get a big head, and that's the downfall of everything.
Mm,
It's a downfall, complete downfall. Then you're not focused, eyes on the prize, you're here to be of service. You are here to tell a story for other people to have an experience, not for you to have the experience. You're here to be their surrogate so that they can have experiences that they can't normally have in life. And you're here to do the heavy lifting. That's your job. Your job is to get on that stage and experience the drama. Your job is to get on that stage and experience the pain, the joy, the whatever it is. Your job is to do that for them so they can go home to their lives and live a bigger life because they have that experience, but they didn't have to give anything up for it.
mm.
That's
Amazing.
that's the job.
I'm here I'm just soaking it all in. Like, damn, that's good.
Well, it's what you guys do. You make it possible. The military makes it possible. In all the armed forces, make it possible for us to live a life where we don't have to think about that on a daily basis. You make it possible for us to live our lives and go forward in whatever different lanes we want to, because you're handling something that we can't, or that we aren't. And that, again, without you, we can't have this. So it's very much the same thing. Like we're all doing something valuable, and if you aren't valuing what you do, but also understanding that you are a piece of the whole, something's off. It's both. It's a fine line there.
Very true. Very true. Now we do have a question from the chats,
Oh, bring
and
it.
and I can I
Boxer
can
briefs.
I
Always boxer briefs. Sorry.
I can guarantee you probably haven't been asked this question before.
Oh,
And
I'm so excited.
there you
Okay.
go. From Heath,
Hi, Heath.
do dinosaurs have boobs?
Ooh,
There you go.
I'm gonna guess no because I don't think dinosaurs were mammals. And isn't that like one of the defining characteristics of mammals? I believe if dinosaurs were to have existed now, they would probably be in the reptilian community or in the reptilian species, in which case they probably did not have mammary glands. So I'm going to guess no. That is an
Jeez.
incredible question, though. Thank you for making my brain work.
There you go. There you go. If nothing else, we're gonna we're gonna get a couple of those.
I
Um,
love that. I love that so much. Please, you guys, bring it on.
be careful what you ask for. I'm not gonna take a lot of those. Okay, so I happen to know besides English, and speaking your native tongue, you also speak Spanish. You also speak French. Uh, was two not enough? Was three not enough?
Well,
Why the
I will say
extra?
I will say one thing. I don't actually speak Hindi or Gujarati fluently.
Okay.
Strangely enough, I learned Spanish really well. I learned French pretty well, but I never really learned Hindi and Gujarati. Gujarati is the language of my parents' community and their families, and then Hindi, obviously, the national language of India. And there are like 9 gazillion languages in India, so you
Mm.
can learn so many. But I don't know if it was because my parents were immigrants and they wanted me to assimilate a little bit more, but they never imposed that on me. They never really imposed anything. They weren't the kind of people to force anything. Their
Mm.
value, they were going to force anything. They would lay it out on a platter and say, "Here's what we got. Do what you want with it." Whether it was religion, whether it was cultural traditions, whether it was language. And so I think when you grow up as a kid in America, um, I don't think without that parental push, when you grow up as or the child of immigrants in America, the lean is towards doing what everybody else is doing.
Mm.
Now, that said, happily for me, I live in Southern California and the opportunity to learn Spanish was there in school. And so I was like, well, obviously that's the language I'm going to learn because that's very useful where I live. And French came very easily in college because it's so similar to not similar to Spanish, but it's got the same the root. They're both Latin languages, Romance languages. So no, two is not enough. But I honestly I think the main reason is I love communicating with people, and I think words are so incredible. Having the right vocabulary to express yourself exactly how you want to express yourself is so special. And I don't think you can do that with people in another language, in their own language, without speaking their own language, without learning that. And I think it's very respectful too. I think it's ridiculous to go to another country and expect them to speak my language. I think it
and
just makes
and
sense.
there is something, I happen to speak Spanish. There is something lost in that translation. So
Always.
even if one understands the other, and like if you're not speaking the same language, there's
Yeah.
definitely some, it's watered down. You lose a piece of it. So
And there's also a connection you make, even if you're trying and doing an abysmal version of it. There is a connection you make with someone else when you make the effort to speak the language that is easy for them to speak. There is something that honors them, that honors who they are, that honors where they came from. And I find that it takes a lot of hubris to just assume that everybody else should speak your language, especially if you're going to their country. So even when I go places that I have no business, I know nothing about the language. I'm really trying to listen, whether for the accent or just figure out what the words are, and try to make sure I'm learning about their culture because I'm on their territory. I'm in their world and I'm in their home. So I want to respect that. I think that's very important.
yes, Raymond in the chat says boa notte.
Ah, grazie.
There you go. Okay, you ready to get a bunch of guys hitting up your Instagram right now? I
All right.
happen to have stalked your Instagram and saw a picture of you doing a split.
Oh yeah, that happens.
Is that I? Is there not enough that you're good at that you're also like I'm going to be super flexible and show that off?
Well, I mean, in fairness, that split has gotten a little bit less easy as the years go on, but she's trying to hold it together, kids. No, it's another, God, I just, the older I get, the more important it is to me to maintain a childlike wonder when it comes to the world, and to maintain a sense of excitement, and to really, really lean into fun, because there is so much in the world that will break you down. There is so much in the world that is hard. There are so many things that we have no choice but to experience that are difficult and challenging and downright heartbreaking. So why not take every chance you possibly to have fun? And when I was in school, all the cheerleaders could do the splits and they were doing all the fun stuff. And if you were a popular girl doing the splits and stuff, I was like, well, I may not be one of you, but I'm going to do the splits because that looks like fun. I say yes to that. Let's make that happen. So yeah, it's just something I like to do, and it's become a thing. And I like doing pictures, hashtag splits around the world, and wherever I get a chance to do them, as long as I'm wearing pants that allow me to do them. I almost ripped my last pair of jeans when I did that on stage in the last picture. So gotta be careful. Make sure you're wearing spandex when that's happening. But yeah, that's the thing I do.
Outstanding. All right. So now I feel
Yeah.
like we've gotten to know you a little better. We've gotten
Okay.
a peek behind, the brain, the big brain you got there.
We got a
Let's
big brain on Brad. Okay. Sorry. I'm a
let's
little
let's take
science.
a look. Let's take a look at
Okay.
some back in the past. You've been, I mean, you've been connected with just a number of huge properties, and some smaller things, some bigger things. Obviously, we're not even going to touch on your theater work because I just don't have enough time to do
That was
that
a
as
long
well.
time too. Yeah, that's when
Uh,
that was like good 10 years before I started doing anything else. So yeah.
yes, I mean Broadway. I mean, that's all that needs to be said. It's Broadway, right? That you're
But if
top
you're gonna say the word Broadway, you kind of have to go Broadway or something like that. You know, and you got
jazz
to
hands.
make it big. Jazz hands, Broadway.
um, so when you were breaking into TV and film, do you recall seeing yourself on the screen, big or small, that first time, and what that feeling was, seeing yourself for the first time?
I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but the feeling was, oh no, oh girl, okay. Like there's definitely the same way when we're like the first time you hear your voice recorded and you're like, that's what I sound like. I think there's definitely that experience when you see yourself for the first time on screen and you see yourself for the first time in a role. Like there's a pride that, yay, I booked the job, but there's also a sense of like, is that the best you can do? Do better. Now, maybe that's just my own, inability to accept anything other than an A plus because I am Indian after all. But yeah, the first because the first TV gig where I was playing a role that I did, not like a commercial or something, was Law and Order SVU, and I remember seeing it and being like, oh, cool, I'm on this show. Okay, that's we got some work to do. Let's make that better.
Is that what
Let's
I
do
look like? Is that what I
let's
look like?
let's do that better. Let's maybe tone this down. Like so it was very much a how do I do better?
Mm,
Which I admit for all my talk about one of the reasons I'm so adamant about finding joy in life is because my natural state of being is to criticize myself and to critique and to really like it's very easy for me to get mired down in solving the problem of me
mm.
or solving the problem of my life rather than saying, nothing's wrong here. There's no hole in the boat. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the ride. So I think it's taken me a long time to really understand how to peel away the product of me, which I need to know about for my work. I need to watch a performance or feel a performance if I'm on stage because I don't get to watch the replay or tape of it. But to focus on a performance and figure out what can be improved or figure out what I like, what I don't like, but to peel that away from my own, um, my own moral judgment of who I am. To understand that the product of me is not the whole of me. The product of me just happens to be because I am an actress I am the CEO of my corporation and I am the product that we sell. So yeah, the first time I saw myself, I was a little bit like, oh, I've spent all this time doing theater, not having to look at myself, just enjoying the audience's, applause. And now I'm seeing myself, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna work on this. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna really get this better. And as time has gone on, I've been a little bit gentler on myself. But like I said, when you separate the two things, when you separate yourself as a human from yourself as the actor, it's a lot easier to critique yourself without judgment. And I think that's a very valuable skill for all of us to have, is to understand how to evaluate yourself rather than judge yourself. I think that's really important.
Outstanding. Now, one of your earliest roles, it might have been the third thing you're credited with on IMDb anyway, is an appearance in The Sopranos.
Yeah, that was my second job. It's
Second
my
job.
second. Like who? Again, when I talk about how lucky I am, it's ridiculous. Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
I was
So
gonna
yeah.
say that's a lot. That's a lot to live up to. Like
Thinking, however, though, okay, here you go. Talking about how everything is everything. My parents are doctors. We talked about that already. That role, when I went in for that role, first of all, I got to the callback and they said they didn't have me on the list, but I was there. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to stay here until you're done seeing everybody and then you're going to see me. Everybody else is there wearing lab coats or whatever. I'm not. I just showed up dressed as I was dressed. And I went in and I did the scene and they said, are you a real doctor? And I was like, no, no. I mean, I have a lot of family members who are doctors, but I'm trying to do my job here and make it look like I'm a doctor. But because I knew so much, because of my parents and my sister-in-law and everybody in the family who was a doctor, I was able to thankfully book that job, because I don't think I would have been able to book it if I didn't have life reference to book off of. So everything is everything.
Mm. So I have a note here
Oh,
that says if you count an appearance as a veterinarian that you played and another one as a medical examiner, if you count those, you've been a doctor 14 times
that's
in your
it.
career.
I feel like it's been way more than that. It's got to be way more than that.
14 is what is the count I had. Now, what does that say about you? I'm just curious from your own perspective. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit here. Do you feel that you've been typecast as a doctor?
Well, okay, let's talk about typecasting, because all of us are typecast. We have a type and we are cast as it, right? It's just how much can you broaden the type that you are? That's part of the challenge of acting. How many different things can you play? Now, obviously, ethnically and statistically, a lot of doctors are Indian, and especially when I was growing up, like that was kind of the main thing. Now there are a lot of people, South Asians, who are expanding into so many other careers here in the West. But so yeah, I definitely think it was something that people associated with my background. I also know there are a lot of Indians in the world. So if all of us went in for the role as a doctor and only one of us came out with it, there's got to be something that makes that person unique, right? So in my case, I think it was a combination of, I present as someone who might be a doctor, and I lucked out that I just happened to be able to spout out medical jargon in a way that makes sense because I understand it a lot. I mean, look, as far as tech goes, I'm just like, I'm the biggest Luddite. Well, I'm not the biggest Luddite, but I feel like I say this all the time, as an Indian, you get one gene or the other. You either get the tech gene or you get the medical gene. Very few people are blessed with both. I got the medical gene. So, I can intubate you with a pen, but I can't freaking deal with my computer. And no, I can't intubate you with a pen. That's highly dangerous. I would never do such a thing. That's a joke. But yeah, so I think that was definitely a part of it. And listening to my parents and so much of my family, it wasn't just my parents, my grandmother, my sister-in-law, uncles and aunties, so many doctors in the family. I think it would be the same as someone coming from a family of lawyers and being like, well, I know how lawyers talk because that's what I saw growing up.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
and also, there are worse stereotypes in the world than to be a doctor. It's a highly respected profession. I'm totally fine with that.
I mean, yeah, because speaking again from a pop culture lens, I can easily, The Simpsons made very a Pooh and the clerk at the convenience store, and so I'm like, there are worse things to be typecast than a doctor.
Yeah.
And I think you felt like you played more because you played a number of nurses as well. So you've done a lot of
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
medical,
Yeah,
lot of
that's right.
medical stuff.
I live in the medical world pretty comfortably. And
It's
there's
so
also
easy.
another I also played a doctor, quote unquote, on well, it is a doctor on Law and Order SVU, but it was a doctor as in a PhD who was a professor, so not quite a doctor.
Right. Question from the chat says, what was her first big paycheck purchase? Like you get the big payday, and what's that big purchase? The first big purchase.
I'm just trying to remember my first big paycheck because, to be honest with you, things that look like they should pay a lot as an actor often do not pay a lot.
Mm.
Um, God, I honestly can't remember. This is gonna sound so boring, but I was that kid who just, like, put money in their savings account. I
Mm.
remember I remember being a tutor in high school. I tutored students, and I had a friend who I was so nervous was gonna end up in jail because he was such a bad boy that I put aside a fund in my cabinet that was the Get Todd Out of Jail fund, and I put it in there, and I put $200 in there, which is ridiculous because who's gonna get out of jail for $200? But that Monopoly says that, so I guess that's what I put in there. And so I'm that person. So I guess my biggest paycheck purchase was probably the Get Taught Out of Jail fund. I never used it, but it was
That
there.
just sounds like a
Uh,
good friend, man. I wish I had
I
friends like that.
yeah, if I know myself well enough, chances are it was something to like a computer game.
Mm.
Chances are it was something in my geeky world, um, or just a computer. That is very likely, but I don't
I
even
like that.
remember what my first big paycheck is. For so many years, I didn't clock. I think one of the reasons that I have been able to be successful, like not even, and by successful, I mean pay my own bills. I don't
Sure.
even mean like make
A
a lot of money.
working
Successful as
actor.
an artist, successful as an artist is because I didn't care where I made my money as long as it was legal and ethical. I kind of didn't care where I made it, so that I didn't feel like my acting making me a large paycheck was the pinnacle of success. As long as I was working, I didn't care if I was making $200 or if I was making $2,000 or if I was making 20. I didn't matter. I was working on that. And I think that that is something that a lot of artists could stand to do for themselves is to remember you are not like you are not an artist because you are not making a ton of money doing it. You just have to figure out how to make enough money to pay your bills and
Outstanding.
hopefully buy yourself that big one purchase that I can't remember. So in the middle of the night tonight now, like 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna wake up and be like, I bought this
Yeah.
because that's pop
That
up in my.
collection of, rare
Ah,
antiquities.
yes, I remember it was my mini collection for this campaign or something.
Hit us up on social media. When it comes to you, just
I
just
will.
tweet
I'll
it
be
out
like,
to us. We'll catch it.
hashtag pop culture warrior. I know what I bought. I went through the receipts from 1995.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we're having so much fun here. We have to talk about Miss Marvel. We have to take a couple minutes
Yeah,
because oh man, so
I
awesome.
know. Right? So
So
fun.
so awesome. I'm a kid from New York. I'm born and raised in New York. So even though this takes place in New Jersey,
Yeah, but
I
I mean, it's the tri-state area.
I'm very familiar. I spent tons of time in Jersey, and
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. Um, but before we dive into Miss Marvel, I gotta say, it's not your first run in, pun intended, with the MCU. You had a part in The Runaways. So, can you recall what your experience was like on The Runaways when you're first getting into the MCU and who's canon as part of part of the bigger
Right,
universe.
right.
Do you remember what that experience was like?
I mean, it was absolutely wonderful. Everyone on that show was so, so, so sweet. Britt Ishibashi is still a friend. Ever Carradine is still a friend. I That character was minor enough that I didn't necessarily feel like, oh, I'm a part of the Marvel universe. It
Mm,
felt like, okay, cool, I got this job and I'm going to do this cool thing on this really cool hit show with a bunch of really cool actors. But I didn't so much feel like, ooh, you're in the MCU now. I didn't have that. I didn't have that connection to it like I do to Ms. Marvel. It was very, very cool, and I really enjoyed myself, and it was a fun storyline, really fun storyline. And as far as we know, my character, she may or may not have died because if she did die, it happened off screen. So we don't know. We don't know what happened to her. That's what I kept telling myself. I'm like, if they do another season, I could come back. We never know. That's the actor's like big thing.
I mean,
Like,
given
I could come back. Could I come back? Could I still come back? So
because it's a shared universe, we could have a situation where she runs into Auntie Ruby on the street,
I
like
mean, that would be a tough one to sell, I think. But now that we've got all the branches and the timelines and,
Mhm,
Earth 616 and 813 and all this stuff, like we've got all the different possibilities. I think there's a lot of room for fun
could
stuff. So,
happen.
but I feel like her running into Auntie Ruby would be
It would just be a little wink wink to the audience.
it'll be a little bit much, even for the wonders of the Marvel universe.
Right. So when you were auditioning for Miss Marvel, Is that something that comes up in the conversation? Well, like I was on the Runaways, and like like is that something like don't worry about it,
Good
like nobody's
question.
gonna notice?
I always leave that up to casting, because casting will know what I was a part of, because it's out there in the world and it's on my resume and it's on IMDb. And like it's the same thing with Law and Order SVU. Some shows do care if you've been on them before, and some, if you've been, it's been a few years, knock yourself out, come back as a different character. I was unsure what they would think about this, but they sent me the audition, so I figured, okay, well then, cool, because I want another try. Give me another hit. Give me another chance at the bat. I'm
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
I like it. Now we would be remiss if we didn't mention Imani and her
Iman, oh,
incredible,
I know. Iman is just, I
incredible.
yeah, she's really, really fantastic. Just a lovely she's lovely, she's grounded, she's fun, she's very such a hard worker. Oh my, I mean, the amount that was on her shoulders for this show, uh, in so many ways. I feel like people 3 times her age would have caved from the pressure,
Mm.
and she just nailed every bit of it, on screen and off.
I feel like the hard just again watch. I'm the guy that watches the behind the scenes and the
Oh,
making
dope.
of and
Yeah.
all these things. I can't get enough of it. Seeing her personality, seeing how she is behind the scenes, it
Right?
seems like the hardest thing for the crew would probably be to rein her in. And like we have to film a show. You're having too much fun. Yes, you're in the MCU, but we need you to
You might
focus.
think that. You might think that, but her enthusiasm never got in the way of her work. On the contrary, it just made her more serious about it.
That's awesome.
You know,
That's
and
so
the
awesome.
fact that she had such a deep knowledge, not just of the Marvel universe, but specifically of this character, and such a deep love for her, and such a deep respect for the story, she only brought more depth and more, you know, more things that Kamala would do or would say, or an understanding of who that person is, especially because she's that age. She's we
She
aren't
is the character.
writers aren't, she absolutely is the character.
Mm.
And I've said it a million times. I'll probably say it again. I don't think there's anyone alive who is more right to play that character, because she also has an there's an authenticity to her acting that I is very rare, particularly in young actors. But actors, period. It's very hard to just be yourself. And she's right there. She's right present. She's right. Like, I could take an acting class from her. She's great. She's just great.
And for those that don't know, she basically books this right out the gate. She's like barely finished high school.
She did not even want to be an actress. She was not intending to be an actress, but she loved Ms. Marvel, the character, so much, that when she heard about the audition from a WhatsApp that her auntie sent her, which is hilarious. I think it was her auntie, or maybe, but someone in her family sent her. She was like, if I don't audition for this, I'm going to be disappointed in myself.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to cry.
you always have that
And
what if.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And sure enough, here she is killing it. And I'm so excited to see her in everything that's to come.
Oh my God.
There's so much goodness to come.
She's got such a career ahead of her.
I
What
know.
given that you have the experience, were you able to give her any advice? Were you able to have conversations with her? Is there what could you impart to her? Can you share that with us? Is it
Yeah, no,
just
I
between
can.
you?
And I don't think it was anything that she didn't know. It was just maybe something that I wanted to uh, uh, solidify that she did know. Because I think there was so much, I don't think, I know. There was so much pressure on her to be like the poster child for Pakistani American Muslims, to be exactly what the world wanted her to somehow be everything to the world. And she already knew this. You can hear it in her own interviews, but just she didn't I remember having a conversation with her and saying, you don't have to be anything other than exactly what you are, because exactly what you are is what got you to where you are today.
Mm.
You don't have to be, you're not responsible for anything other than being who you are. And who she is such a lovely person that I hope nothing ever takes her away from that.
Oh my God, that's so good. I'm gonna cry over here. It's so beautiful.
But
Uh,
again, it's not like I gave her it's not like advice or new knowledge. She had it.
yeah.
She knew it. It's just confirming, I think, what she already knew, and getting to talk with her we did our principal filming and then we did reshoots later. So she had already gone to set for the Marvels in between, and getting to talk to her and see how much she had changed and grown between those two phases because of the experiences she had shooting the Marvels is just like this. She's a sponge. She's just a brilliant, brilliant girl.
That's so awesome. There was a question from Keith in the chats. We're not going
I
to
can't.
answer it
Oh,
because it says, and I know with secrecy, is she signed up for any Avengers movies or other things? I'm sure you're sworn to secrecy and can't
dude,
divulge.
if I told you, I would have to kill you, and frankly, you probably are more capable of killing me than I am of killing you, so I'm not even gonna try. No, and I can already feel her presence.
Yeah,
I
the
can
sweat
feel her.
starts to the
I
swell.
I did not even tell my husband what I was shooting until it was public knowledge. So that was a good year and a half into the job
So
that I did not tell him.
damn
So I'm very good at keeping that secret.
that's such a great, and that brings me to my next question, which is Marvel is known for its secrecy, and
Yeah.
when you're auditioning, um, what is like, do you know what you're auditioning for, right? How much information are you giving up front for this? Like, what
I think
did
it's probably different for different roles and different for different shows and projects and whatever. In this particular instance, I knew the character was named Auntie Ruby.
and
And then they gave us a script, and it was a dummy script. It wasn't something that existed in the show,
right.
which is smart. And what a lot of, I mean, that's a lot of properties do that. Not just TV shows, but games and all sorts of stuff. They'll use code names, they'll use all sorts of stuff so it doesn't get out. But that was pretty much it. I think the age range that they gave me was like age 50 to 80. So they
That
were
had to
very
feel good.
clearly, like, casting a wide net. Yeah, it's always fun to be like, "I'm going in for an 80-year-old." Awesome. Look, I don't care. I don't care if it's a 95-year-old Indian man. Just I'll do the job. If you let me do it, I'll do it. Yeah, there was not a lot. Definitely got the feeling though from the sides that they sent that, like, when I read the sides, the demeanor that I came into Auntie Ruby with in the show was very much present in the sides that I read. So
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's me just reading them that way and deciding like that's how I would read them, or if that was
That's who she is, man.
really what
That's
they
who she
wanted.
is.
But it's definitely it's sort of like the auntie I would want to be, like the cool auntie.
So okay,
The cool calls it as she sees it auntie, for better or for worse.
yes. So okay, so we know you know nothing coming into it basically.
And
Once
I knew that I was auditioning for Ms. Marvel in this
okay.
instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you get into it, I'm curious, now you're on set. I know that, the I've heard this tagline so many times of like, I don't even know who else is in it until like we're in the scene shooting it.
100%. 100% true in my experience.
Do you, and I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you do this thing with like other actors where you're like, hey, like how much do you know about this? Like what are you involved in? Like, do you
I
guys
mean,
trade secrets?
to an extent, yes, but being the person that I am, who doesn't want to get myself in trouble, let alone anyone else, I figure what I know is on a need to know basis. And if I need to know more, I can go to someone, I can go to one of the producers, I can go to the director, I can ask, hey, can you give me a little bit more information? If not, no big deal. I'll fill it in the way I fill it in. It's very much a trust your director and trust your team situation. And they had such a baller creative team on this show that, like, why would you not trust them?
Mm,
Plus, I kind of love I don't know what's happening either. I kind of love that aspect of it because it forces you to be very in the moment. It forces you to listen. It forces you to create on the fly. It forces you to really be in your character, even if you don't know what the situation is. You got the one thing you can lean on is what you know about your character. So it's a fun, different kind of challenge.
mm. And I mean, what better way to understand your character other like they don't know what's going on, so why
Yeah,
should you?
exactly. Exactly.
uh,
And there are, obviously when you're shooting things that involve CGI or special effects or stuff like that, it would be nice to know what you're looking at. So there are certainly moments like that where we had to do that, and the directors would give us that, but maybe not the backstory about why it's happening. And I super appreciate that. Also being like I am like virulently allergic to spoilers, especially when I'm watching something. Like I have unfriended relatives over Game of Thrones spoilers. Like it's been a thing. So I love that the show didn't get spoiled for me when I was on it.
Mm,
'Cause a lot of times, this has happened to me in the past where I'll get an audition for a show that I love, but they're auditioning me for a role that's 6, 7 episodes ahead or the next season. So all of a sudden I'm going in for this audition, but now I know everything that's about to happen on the show that I love so much. So now it's spoiled for me. In this instance, that didn't happen. I got to watch the show as much a fan as a participant in so many aspects of it. Because if I wasn't in the scene, I didn't know what was going on.
mm.
I hadn't seen it.
What was the hardest secret to keep for this show, other than maybe that you're on it? Uh, was there something where you're like, oh my god, like this, it's killing me inside to not share this?
No. Again, I feel like I, I it cares it matters so much more to me that people enjoy seeing it for the first
Mm,
time, that there was nothing that was like, "Oh, I'm gonna burst at the seams and I gotta tell people, I gotta tell people." Like, the only people that I really needed to tell were my agents and my manager and, like, people who were involved in it, and everybody else was like, "You're gonna know when you know.
right
You're
on.
gonna and you're and as far as the plot, I'm gonna know when I'm gonna know, so I'm not too worried about it." And also, I mean, this is maybe a little too behind the curtain for people, but you never, no matter what show you are in, you never know what it's going to look like what you are in, what the audience is going to see until you see it.
Right.
Which means if I tell people, "Hey, I'm in this show and it's so awesome that I'm in this show," and then suddenly I have like no lines because they cut my part out, that's not something that I really want to happen. So I'm all about success through lowered expectations. Until I know what I'm doing in a show, I try not to talk about it, or a game or a play or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can imagine, like the background extras, like, listen, I'm in this shot, like I was in front of the camera all day, and then it's on air, and it's like a shoulder that
Yeah,
appears.
no, it happened, and it's happened to me so many times in movies or in television, and it's not because you're not good, it's not because the scene wasn't good, it's usually because it just didn't serve the story.
Right.
And I remember doing 2 movies at the same time in New Orleans, one year, and one of them I spent like a month and a half shooting like all the stuff that I was in, and one I spent 1 day shooting all the stuff that I was in. And in the finished product, I was in the movie with the 1 day of shooting more than I was in the one that I was on set for a month and a half for.
Wow.
It
Yeah,
just happens that way. It just happens. It
that's the
happens to the best of
business.
people. It is the business. So again, you got to fall in love with something and then let it go on a regular basis. And
Like that.
it's very catch and release philosophy.
I like that. I like that. Okay, we're running. Jesus, we're already running low on time.
Oh no,
I told
you
you
have to
this
go
is,
somewhere?
and I don't have to go anywhere. We could do this all
All
night.
right. All right. Well, I'm here for a minute. I just have my coffee. I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. I got questions for you.
I got
Um,
no, I got I just I can certainly go a little over.
sure.
Until I get a text, I'm solid.
Right on. So I'm like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to tell you this. I'm positive that Marvel was known for doing its little one shots, little vignettes, the little in between things before Disney Plus came along, and like I could imagine a Marvel one shot because you're a member of the was it the Illuminantes? Which God, I it's just so damn
That's
creative.
seriously like the greatest gift that
Oh
the
my God,
writers and creators gave.
so
Like,
good,
I
so
mean,
damn good.
it's freaking brilliant.
I'm like, I'm a pretty creative guy, and I'm like, I would done this, I would done that. I'm like, I would have never ever thought of that.
I
That's
never would
so
have thought
damn
of that.
good.
Never in a million years. Like, I bow down to their superior creativity and brilliance.
So I could totally see a Marvel one shot where it's the Illuminantes uh gathering at different pivotal moments through the MCU years, right? Like, obviously maybe after the Battle of New York, the 20 like that was mind-blowing for everybody, but it like as it goes on, these things become more and more commonplace where
Mhm.
like there's a celestial now coming out of the ocean, like there's a giant and like I could just see, their little knitting circle or whatever it is they're doing, and just like, did you see the news? There's a giant being coming out of the ocean. You're like, yeah, what?
I mean, look, dude, pitch it. I say pitch it to Kevin, see what he says. I'm here for it.
All right, I'll
I'm
I'll
here
get on the
for
horn
it.
with them. I'll get on the horn
Would
with
you
them.
call him up and do that for me?
Yeah, I got you. We're gonna get the fans going. Now, being that this is a shared universe, being that everything's connected and all these things are connected. If you were given the keys to the kingdom, if you were given the choice, where would you like Auntie Ruby to pop up next? Disney Plus show, movie, anything. Which property would you like in the MCU to pop up in?
I hate that I have to give this answer right now because it's such a fun question, but I feel like I have to plead the fifth because I don't know what they have planned,
Mm,
and I don't want to I don't want to ruin any chances of me getting to come back and
gotcha.
do cool things. Um, I mean, there's so many cool universes to be a part of. And I'm very partial to Doctor Strange for some reason. I can't explain why. Maybe it's because he's a doctor and I'm Indian. I don't know. But I do know that the Illuminatis would highly approve of him because he's a handsome young doctor. You know?
Of course,
Other
of
than a
course.
doctor, he's a neurosurgeon. Oh my God. Perfect. Number one. He's like perfect, perfect husband.
He's the perfect
Uh,
husband material. I love
the
it.
perfect husband for my little girl or for whatever. But yeah, I mean, everything is crossing over so much right now. Like I said, I don't even want to hazard a guess.
Mm,
I also want us to be our own thing. Let's do it. Let's do the Illuminatis.
I
I want to
like
be Auntie Marvel. Let's do that movie.
it. Forget Miss Marvel. Forget Captain Marvel. It's
Don't
Auntie
forget
Marvel.
them. They paved
Well,
the way.
that's true. That's true.
It's just that
Include them.
everybody needs a judgmental auntie on their team,
I
whose
mean,
superpower is judgment.
we've seen, in Thor: Love and Thunder, where Thor like bestows his power onto the kids. I wonder if Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, if they could bestow their powers onto the aunties.
I don't see any reason why not.
The
I
auntie
I
core.
mean I mean, Auntie Ruby is very clearly pro Ms. Marvel. She is clearly team Ms. Marvel.
Mm,
So, if she needs an ally, at the very least, I'll cover for her real well.
there you go. A couple of random questions for you.
Okay.
So I happen to know your fan base is the Bemaniacs.
Oh my God, it's crazy, right? What a great name. Can you believe they came up with that name?
It's so good. I'm
I don't know how
jealous.
no one has ever said that in the entire Bimani history that we haven't had someone say that you're a Bimaniac.
It's
Um,
beautiful.
some of them prefer to call it Bimaniacs. I like Bimaniacs because maniac is kind of like
It's the
that's the
the
part of it.
linchpin.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. I feel like it's kind of the linchpin. So I'm glad you pronounce it the same way I do. But tomato, tomato. I don't care how they pronounce it. I love that that's what they chose, and I think it's awesome.
The fact that it's a thing, it matters.
I can't even believe that it's a thing. It's crazy.
You're also part of like the critters of the critical role.
Yeah.
You're part of that.
Oh my. I I am a critter, and I'm part of the critters.
Yeah.
Like again, this is it's a dream life to be able to be a fan of the thing you get to be a part of at the same time.
Mm.
And also they're all my friends. Like I got to be a part of it because I know them and we know each other's work. And I met Matt and Marisha from Critical Role because Matt was in Overwatch. And then Marisha suggested I do an RPG for Geek and Sundry. And everything is everything. And the Critical Role folks are just some of the finest humans. I just love them so much. I love so much what they stand for.
That's beautiful. And I say this because I'm jealous. We've been doing this show for now 3 years, and for the life of me, we cannot figure out what to call the fan base. So if you ever get a good idea,
Oh, you're a pop culture warrior?
yeah, like it's such a it's long, it's awkward. Look, our PC warriors, and I'm like, oh no, that sounds
No, no, like, that
terrible.
was the first thing I thought of, and I was like, "That sounds awful."
So bad.
That's like the absolute opposite of you don't call yourself that. Especially if you curse like I do. Like, you really don't wanna be the PC warriors. Like, that's just a bad idea.
Exactly.
Um,
And I
oh
I go
gosh,
by
that's good.
CQ, and like in the military, there was a thing called like a CQ runner. It's like a staff duty thing, and it's the guy that
There you
I answer
go.
the phone. So I was like, well, maybe it's CQ runners, but it's such an insider military kind of thing, and I don't know, whatever. So I'm
But
just
that's also like, why would you not want to call yourself an insider military thing and then have that be the thing that unifies your fans
that's a
and
good
makes them
point.
special, makes that community special, because then other people would be like, "Well, why are they called CQ Warriors?" Well, let me tell you why. This is why.
I like that. All right.
I would say that's a decent front runner.
Okay.
So
Okay. We'll,
I'll put
we'll
a
think
list.
about it.
We'll
We'll
think
link
about
up
it.
on social. We'll talk.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it.
we'll workshop a few things. We'll
I'll,
put
I'll
out
I'll shoot you some ideas. You let me know
start
what
an
you think.
Instagram poll or a Twitter poll and see what people come up with.
I love it. You've been, and because we didn't even get to touch on the video game stuff. Oh my God, there's
Yeah,
so many
go for it.
things.
Let's go. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't say I was leaving yet.
I mean, what an awesome, cool thing. Like, do you ever sit and think like sorry, the question in my head sounds way dirtier than it's intended to, but like
Bring it. I love
there are
it. I love
teenage
the adult
boys playing with you all over the world.
conversation.
Uh like do you ever say
That's
like that
that's disturbing.
people love your character and I mean and love the voice that you bring to these characters and like I've seen the cosplays. I've seen the passion that people have for a video game character. Like does it ever hit you just how impactful those roles are?
On a regular basis.
Mm.
On an absolutely regular basis. It's why I wrote the book that I did, and it's why I did the web series that I did, because I have such love for this community of people. And I feel like gaming, I don't feel like, I know. Gaming is such a unique form of storytelling because it allows the person who is taking in this story to be a part of making the story. They get to be the character while I am playing the character. They get to play with we are playing this character together. And when people have that sense of empowerment and that sense of agency and that sense of being a part of the narrative, I think they have an ownership or they feel an ownership of that character. They feel a connection to that character that they don't necessarily feel when there's a screen between, like when I'm playing someone that they are not playing, when I am on stage and they are not necessarily connecting in that way. So the ability for games to have an effect on people on a visceral, emotional, mental level is so powerful. I think it's a really, really powerful connection and a really, really powerful thing. And I do, it's going to sound really cheesy, but I do take it as a responsibility. And I don't think I really, in my career, I don't think I really took the playing of a role as much as a responsibility as I did once I started to do games. Because when you start having that broader voice and you know that what you say is affecting so many people, it is really incumbent upon you to do good with your voice. It is absolutely a part of your job to be the best person that you can be. Whether you do it publicly or you do it behind the scenes or wherever you do it. I mean, I feel like it's everybody's job to do that period in life because at this point, we're all on the internet, we're all on social media, so we're all potential role models or potential bad examples. We're all of us are because someone is watching. And so when Overwatch came out and when people started connecting so much with Symmetra, even before it came out, and people were talking to us so much about Symmetra and the other characters, I realized this was the first time in my life that I was probably going to have where I felt like my personal purpose as a human being and my weapon of choice, my career, my passion were really coming together. They were really in line. And like the toothpaste is out of the tube now. Once you have that feeling where you realize what you have chosen to do as your path also fulfills a purpose that you have felt since you were very young, there's no going back.
Mm.
You know, it goes back to what I was saying about it's our job to, as actors, to give people these experiences. Um, I've always felt a desire and a joy and an excitement about finding out what makes other people happy and excited and feel the strongest selves that they are and help them get it in whatever way I could. And for many years, I didn't know how. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a psychiatrist. I wasn't, Tony Robbins. It wasn't my lane. That wasn't my weapon of choice. But when I realized that you could do that as an actor, and then when I realized you could do it in games, which have such a broad reach across so many demographics and so many age groups and so much, then all of a sudden I was like, okay, yes, I know with great power comes great responsibility. Put me in, coach. I'm ready because this is exactly what I want to be doing with my life. I want to be helping people figure out what makes them tick and how to celebrate and use and make the most of the unique things that make them themselves. And if getting to play me in a game enables them to see the hero in themselves, then my work here is done.
Wow.
Take that out in the world and go fly. I love that.
That's so cool. And you've done a ton of voice work for games and other things. I'm curious how that's challenged or improved or changed your acting skills, right? You're in front of the camera, traditional in front of the camera work. How's that changed?
Um, Much like we talked about languages earlier, all acting is a form of storytelling, right? And it's just different languages that have the same root. It's like all the romance languages have the same root. All acting has at its core storytelling, and it's just a different branch of the tree. So, what was great about coming to voice act, I started voice acting relatively late in my career compared to everything else, but because I had trained so much in theater and in musicals and singing and in projecting and all of these different things, plus I was just like a kook who liked to make silly voices and sing songs around the house. I that part of my experience and my training really served me as a voice actor, I think. And so it's not so much that I think it has, how has it changed me as an actor? I think it just really continues to broaden and to strengthen my belief that it's all storytelling at its core. And that the most important thing is not your character, it's not your lines, it's not what you're feeling, it's telling the story. The most important thing is telling the story because that's what people connect to.
Mm. It's sinking in. It's sinking in for me right now. I love this. And you've had a lot of different types of roles,
Mhm.
different mediums. We've kind of touched a little bit on all of it. Is there any acting bucket list of something you haven't done yet you'd like to get into,
I
or
want to be an action hero. That's my bucket
okay?
list.
I didn't
I
even
want to
finish
be
the question. I love it. You got an answer.
give me action Auntie today. Like
Oh,
I just know I'm
okay.
seriously like I really really want that.
Okay.
I don't want to say I'm ashamed, but I don't say this a lot because most people have like nobler answers. But the thing that made me want to do film was watching Speed, the
Mm,
movie Speed with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, because the level of intensity and excitement that I felt watching that movie made me go, oh shit, this is an option. This is an option for affecting people and having a great time doing it. It wasn't like I watched Citizen Kane and I wanted to be a filmmaker. No, it was that one because it felt so much more immediate and tangible. You know, I'm not saying it's the best movie ever, but it was one that affected me. And it
it
was one
made
that
you
made me go,
feel something.
I want to do that now. I want to try this. I want to try that. And I don't really care how people find me. I care that people find me. So I don't care what medium is your jam. If I did it, I did it for a reason. So please, yeah, be
Yeah.
excited about it. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what plays you're in." I'm like, "That's okay. It's not your jam. If you don't know what games I'm in, that's good. I don't care. What's your jam?"
I'm out there. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's one
and if
of
you don't know who I am, that's 100% fine. That gives us a chance to meet.
mm.
I don't care. I really don't care. I just wanna meet people.
But my purpose when I do these interviews is like I want people to know you so well that like when you want to introduce yourself, like, yeah, you don't even need to talk. Like, here, watch this interview I did because it shows you perfectly who I
Oh, well,
am.
that's very that's a lovely goal on your part, but it's something that I could never do. I could never be like, "Yeah, whatever, look at this thing about me."
Yeah.
However, am very much I very much appreciate what you said because I always say this in panels or when I'm doing interviews with people. I'm like, if you can Google it about me, don't ask it. You got me. Ask away. I'm an open book. Ask me the question that only I can answer. Google can answer a bunch of other stuff. So I love that your questions are so penetrating and so creative. And I love that you've got someone on your freaking chat room who wants to know if dinosaurs have boobs. Like, cool.
Yeah.
You're right. No one's ever asked me that question.
We got a full house of people. We'll leave it at that. Let me ask you something I can't Google.
Great. Do it.
What's something that you did you were super proud of it, and for whatever reason, it didn't get seen or as much, whether it was a small part, whether it was under budget or whatever it is that you would love more people to see.
God, there's so many heartbreaks. I'm trying to think of which is the one to talk about right now. I mean, I will say, and this was out in public, and unfortunately, this show got canceled after one season, and my character only made it through one episode because she met an untimely end. But there is a beautiful, beautiful show that was on called "Kevin Probably Saves the World." It's
Yes.
starring Jason Ritter,
Yes.
and shooting that episode was one of my favorite. television experiences, the actual shooting of it and watching it, it was like one of those, it was one of the times that I watched myself and I was like, well done. Good job, you get an A. And it was so much fun, partly because Jason Ritter is just like an unmitigated delight as a human being. Just I cannot talk enough about what a delightful, kind, fun, hardworking, like he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. He's in my book. He's just like he's just very, very he's generous to a fault. And he holds the Guinness Book of World Records record for the most hugs given in 1 minute. How cool is that? But the experience of shooting that show and the show itself, I felt like it especially was at a time when we could use something light and loving. Where I mean, it sounds so cheesy to be like, yeah, this show is about people changing the world through hugs, but technically that's kind of what it was, and yet it was so well done, and he was so charming, and in the episode that I had, hi buddy, you want to come? You want to come and be on this podcast? Come here, little man. Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
There's Charlie. Charlie's going to come sit with us for like 10 seconds and then he's going to get bored of this and he's going to leave. Watch. So getting to do that episode. Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Getting to do that was like, okay, mom, bye. Getting to do that episode was so much fun because I got to do like the gamut of human emotions. This character was very judgy and very conservative, and then all of a sudden she's like completely letting loose by the end of the episode. And there's one scene in particular, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but when you see the episode you'll understand why it was my favorite scene, because not something I'll ever get to do, chances are, on film again, and I am so grateful to have had the chance.
I will say, I've seen the episode, and a scene that will never leave my mind is you lighting a.
Yep, that's the one. That's the spoiler. Woo! It's the best. I shouldn't say it's a spoiler. It's on my acting reel.
I mean,
So
it's so good,
so good.
and you
It's
just
so much
giggling
fun.
away. Oh man, I teared. I teared watching it.
What's so crazy about this too is that that character. This was what, 6 years ago, 5 years ago that I shot that, and that character was like a 60-year-old cancer patient. And people are like, why are you playing 60-year-olds? Why are you playing 80? Like, why are you going? I'm like, I don't care, because it's not about what they say you are. It's what you bring to the character. It's what you get to do with it. If they give you a chance to do something, do it. Do it your way, but do it. People are like, oh, you shouldn't take these roles. You shouldn't do the accent. You shouldn't do this. I'm like, I'm not saying no. I will do it my way, but I'm not saying no. Someone wants me to do an accent. I'm an actress. That's my job. What accent you want? You want Indian? You want British? You want French? What do you want? I got you.
Playing pretend is what you do. That's
exactly. I play pretend for a living. Come on, how lucky am I? And I play pretend in a way that makes people's lives different. It's not just me playing pretend for myself. It's such a joy and an honor, and I'm like, yeah, love it. But yeah, that show, I would have loved for that show to go on. I would have loved to come back in flashback or something like that. That show would have been a fun one to go on. I wish more people, play-wise and musical-wise, I wish more people had seen Bombay Dreams when we did that on Broadway. I think it was a little bit too early in the American culture for it to go well here. The Brits had a lot of experience at the time with Bollywood, and it was very successful over there. And we only got to run for like a year on Broadway because there was just not as much familiarity with South Asian culture here in America. But it was a really fun, splashy, like just a fun show to do. Really, really fun show to do.
I think it would go a lot different nowadays.
100% would go a lot different. Yeah. Would totally go a lot different. But
say lovey.
Had to move on, do other things.
Do you have any that you don't want to get in trouble? Mementos from set that may have gone home with you? Anything you kept for yourself over the years?
Oh yeah, I have a kukri from a play that I did, and a dulled dagger, hand knife, from a play that I did called Roof of the World. And this is one of my favorite play experiences that I've ever done. It was written by my friend D. Tucker Smith. Absolutely stunning show about an Indian spy for the British and a British explorer who fall in love during the time of the British Raj. And so I had to do some stage combat and like swinging from the rafters and all sorts of crazy stuff. And one of the things I had to do was wield a kukri effectively. So on my own time, I trained with it, and I trained with my like training kukris, which were just like made of wood or whatever. And then at the end of the show, that kukri man walked away, and then I bought myself a real one because
Because of
if you know how to
course.
use one, you might as well have one.
Yeah, home defense, you
It's
know.
a
Yeah.
very useful weapon. You can cut coconuts with it. You can cut people with it. You really have a choice. You can do whatever you want with it.
There you go.
So those two, yes. Um, I have been allowed to take home variety of costume pieces over the years, which has been great because I hate shopping. Um, I know I'm a gal who hates shopping. It's a rarity, um, unless it's for dice. What else have I taken that or has walked away with me? I think that's pretty much it. I live one of my Achilles heel is that I live in fear of getting in trouble.
Mm.
Even if I have done nothing wrong, I'm always afraid that I'm going to get in trouble. I'm very much a like I got to obey the rules. I don't care if no one's watching. I'm going to be a good girl. So
Hey.
between that and being like, I can't lie, I'm really, really bad at it. Which God bless him, my husband didn't quite believe that because I was an actress. And then the first time he saw me try to lie, he was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. that's that's sad.
See,
You're really bad at it."
acting is lying, but you get paid to do it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
there's a
it's not like,
difference.
but this is the fun thing. Like I think a lot of people say acting is lying. It's not. It's telling the truth as someone else.
Mm,
There's a big difference,
I like that. I like that.
you know?
I'm sorry, there is a question from the chats. Charles says, are there any other video game voices coming up that you can talk about?
That I can talk about. Let me think.
Or that you can't talk about, but you'll do it anyway. I mean, either way.
I want to keep my job, so no. I don't think there are any that I can talk about. I will say that there are a couple coming out that I'm really excited about. I have my two first experiences with full body motion capture are in the works right now. Two really very different characters that I'm excited about. I did facial capture for Apex, so that was me, and we actually did that while we were in lockdown,
Mm.
which is a fun story because they sent the camera and the headset and the rig and the whole thing to the house, and then we zoomed for them to show me how to put it together, and then I'm like running around the house with dots on my face pretending to jump out of planes and stuff, so that was cool. But yeah, so I'm excited about those two coming out.
So I want real quick so for people that play Apex, I occasionally do.
Yeah, that's my face.
When they're playing with you, all those were shot in her house. Everything you
Not
do
all
in
of
the
them.
game.
Not all of them. Like
Some of the actions.
the facial capture.
Right,
So
right.
a lot of the facial expressions were based on me. Like I don't have the tooth gap, but her crooked smile. I always used to hate the fact that I have a little bit of a crooked smile.
Mm.
And then I saw it on her face and I was like, "Oh my God, that's my crooked smile. It looks cute on her." Okay.
It
I don't hate it
works.
anymore.
It
That I
works.
can handle. That I can handle. So that's how I figured out. I was like, "Oh yeah, they did use it. Cool. That is me." So that's fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate that they did that. So yeah, those two things are coming out. Overwatch 2. I don't think that's any secret that that's coming out.
Mhm.
And I did not get replaced as Symmetra. I don't think that's news. So thankfully I can say that. Yeah, nothing else I'm allowed to talk about.
Well, we're
It's
gonna
funny.
have to have you come back when you
Yeah, no,
can talk
please
about
do.
it.
Because also like I was saying, I'm really bad at like I'm really good at keeping secrets, partly because I choose to forget things. I have an uncanny knack for forgetting what I am working on or forgetting what I worked on like the day before. People are like, "So what are you working on right now? Or what's going on in your life?" I'm like, "Oh, this. Oh, I forgot. I wrote a book." Like like that stuff will happen
Yes.
all the time.
Which
Uh,
great segue because I want to touch on that. I do
oh,
want to touch on
cool,
that.
sure.
And what I was going to say is we're going to take a moment if you allow me. We're going to get a little
Please.
deep. We're going to get a
Okay.
little dark, a little somber sometimes on this as much as the fun pop culture stuff and the movies and the Marvels and all the games. We do talk about mental health and
Yeah.
because it's something I do believe in. I suffer from PTSD and I was wounded in combat and these things. So you wrote this book and I can't do it justice. I want you to share it with the people because only you can do it the way you can. But let the people know the book and what it's about, and because I thought it was beautiful. I really did.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that means a lot to me because that was the whole reason I made it, is for other people. So the book is called, well, the book is based on a series of the same name. It's a web series called I Am Fun Size and So Are You. And the reason I started that web series is not because I am a petite human. The reason I started that web series is because when I think we talked about it a little bit, that when I fell in love with the gaming audience, just the audience of people who were so lovely online, but particularly I started to connect with them the most when Overwatch first came out, and people were so generous with their art and with their time and with their kindness and with their support. And a lot of people were DMing me personal questions. And I am not a doctor, just play them on TV. So I did not feel comfortable saying, like, well, this is what you should do, or maybe you should check this out about mental health. And yet for me too, because I've struggled with a lot of mental health issues through my lifetime as well. And we all have, our demons that we've all had to work through, for better or for worse. And one of my big goals of going through things, one of the ways that I feel like I've been able to cope with difficulty in my life, is to remind myself, okay, this really sucks right now, but the one thing that you will walk away from this with, is compassion for people going through the same thing. So remember what you're going through, remember how it feels, remember how you get out of it, because someone somewhere is going to need that someday. So flash forward to when people are being so generous with me after Overwatch, I decided that the one thing that I do have to offer people that no one else has to offer is my personal set of experiences and how I've lived through them, for better or for worse, whether gracefully or ungracefully, however it's happened. Because something went right, because I'm still here. So I'm relatively successful at being a human. So I started this series where people would send in questions to my public email address, which incidentally is Anjali at IamFunsize.com. Feel free to hit me anytime. People would write in questions, and I said the same thing. Don't ask me questions about Symmetra. You can find that out online. Ask me what you need to ask me. And while I wouldn't give advice, because that's not my place, I would say, I don't know if this might help you, but this is my experience with this thing, and let me share what happened when this happened for me, and what worked and what didn't work. And then it became a thing, and people really enjoyed the show and enjoyed the answers, and it made me think a lot about how I managed through so many difficult times. And it forced me to be accountable to myself as well, to be like, okay, well, you've been telling other people about this experience. Now you live it. Now you be the person that you want them to be. You be the person you want to see in the world. So it's a very long way around. A lot of people had told me that they wanted me to write a book, similar to the series. And so last year I did. And the goal of the book, the full name is I Am Fun Size and So Are You, Thoughts from a Tiny Human on Living a Giant Life. And the whole fun size concept to me is it's not just for candy bars and short people. It's all of us. All of us are fun size. All of us are built for these fun, magnificent, huge lives. But the world has a funny way. Life has a funny way of making us feel very small sometimes, and scared and sad, and worst of all, alone. And the number one goal with this book is to let people know, no matter what you are going through, no matter how unique your circumstances are, you are not alone. There's always someone there who has either been through something similar and can help you, who is there with a shoulder to cry on, who is there with a joke to make you laugh, who is there just holding your hand, who is there with a flashlight to help you out of the cave, whatever. There's always someone there. And the world would miss you desperately if you were gone, because without you here, we don't get the unique expression of you that is you. So I basically took all of the episodes from the show and wrote a much bigger version of the experiences that I have had that led me to a lot of the concepts that I talk about. Whether it's about, one of my favorite sections is how the hell do I love myself? Because no one teaches you. Everybody's like, well, you have to learn to love yourself before you can love everyone else. I'm like, great, thanks. I'm fucked because I don't know how to love myself. I don't even like myself. What do I do? When you're in a dark place, that's the worst thing you want to hear. I'm doomed and I don't like myself. Thanks so much. But I learned how to love myself by watching how I loved my dog and how I loved the other people in my life. So no, you don't, it's a simple way to do it, but it's not easy. And so the whole book basically is little vignettes, little sections, some longer than others, some stories from my life, some observations, and lots of adorable drawings of me and my dog. Because as you saw, my dog is ridiculously cute. And he too provides some wisdom in the book, because I learned a lot from that little furry Buddha that lives in my life. And you learn a lot from loving someone or something else. You really do. So we ran a Kickstarter last year, and it was thankfully very successful. And now the book is going to be coming out in the fall. So stay tuned. Watch me on the socials. I'll let y'all know when it's happening, when it's official, and then you can all send me messages or buy it on the, I don't know, the Kindle, wherever it shows up. It's going to show up a bunch of places and Kindle, wherever. Not now. Don't do it now. Do not. But eventually it will be there, and I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to share it with the world because the few people who have already read it because of the Kickstarter have really had a really positive reaction to it, and a lot of people, even the web series, people have. It's been very, very, very touching to me, the things that people have told me, and I think it's just more testimony that the more of your pain you can turn into someone else's comfort, the better. It makes it so much easier to handle the pain that life throws at you. I mean, you guys know better than most people that like there are awful, awful things that we might have to see in the world. There are awful, awful things that we might have to experience. And it is very hard some days to want to be here. It is very hard some days not to just check out. But the courageous act is sticking around because someone needs you. That's the most courageous act, is sticking around at that moment. Um, so that's what the book's about.
I'm going to clip all of that, and on my rainy days, on my blue days, I'm gonna play that, and my spirit is uplifted, and
No.
I truly mean that. I'm not blowing smoke. I truly mean it. I echo and I agree with everything you stated. And we got to figure. I'd love to buy a bunch of the books. Maybe you sign them. I'd love to give them away to my audience.
Dude, let's definitely have a conversation
I
because
would
here's another
love to
thing.
do that.
I'm doing a lot of book signings all over the country when it happens. And so when we get closer to the release date, I will definitely have my folks hit you up and let's see if we can do something, some kind of event for your
Oh,
viewers or something. And I'm very happy to donate copies. I mean, like I said, what you guys do for us, I wouldn't be able to live the life that I live without you guys.
I
So I'm
appreciate it. I want to tell you some of the comments because obviously I'm not going to stop the show every time you're getting inundated with positive
Oh,
comments.
okay, there you are. Okay, phew.
Sorry,
I was like, oh no, don't
lost
freeze
it.
now.
You're getting just inundated with positive comments, and I can't stop the show every time. But people, amazing title for your book. She may replace my all-time favorite guest. You are now
Oh,
all-time favorite guest for the show. I got guys saying they're gonna replay Uncharted just so they can listen out for your voice.
well,
Um,
no, that one's going to be a tough one because I'm like random Indian person speaking Hindi in the back on that one. So that might be a tough. Play Uncharted 4 because it's awesome, but don't listen for me because you might not find me.
so you're getting a ton of love.
Well, I'm very grateful for that, you guys. Like I said, I mean, I'm not blowing sunshine up you guys' asses. I'm serious when I say what you may not hear it enough. And I know that I will never understand the hardship that so many of you go through while you're being deployed, afterwards, everything that you've dealt with. But I am one of so many people who are wildly, wildly grateful for what you have chosen to do for us.
and I just want to say I'm getting a private message, and someone just wants to let you know that they really needed to hear that. Uh,
Mm.
that's all. They just
Well,
want you to know that they really needed to hear that, and you made it
now you guys are gonna make me cry.
just that one. And as I said, even if you can just reach that one, you know,
That's it, right? That's the point.
yeah. Uh,
That's the point.
Beautiful. I don't want to hold you much longer. You want to do a quick, fun lightning round, and then we'll call it a night.
Lightning round. Let's do it.
All
Let's do
right.
it. Lightning round to match my lightning tattoo. Let's do it.
What's been the craziest fan interaction you've ever had?
Someone asked me to sign their arm, and then they went and got a tattoo of it. That was pretty crazy. And then I got to see the bloody tattoo of what I signed.
Okay.
It wasn't my signature. It was like a voice line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be a little. Although I do have friends who have had that experience too, so it's crazy when it
I'd
happens.
imagine.
That was a pretty big one.
Worse is if like if hey, can you sign as your character? And then they get the tattoo, like Auntie Ruby, and they get that tattooed. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Like, but the last thing you want is your own. I don't want you don't want my signature on your arm. You want your signature on your arm. You're you.
have you ever been starstruck working with someone?
Oh, so many times. Um,
Biggest one.
yeah, the most embarrassing one was when I met the late great Alan Rickman. It was when I was doing a show on Broadway, and we were both at the Drama Desk Award, Drama League Awards, or some Drama League luncheon. And I saw him, and he was doing Private Lives on Broadway at the same time. And I was like, "This is my chance. I'm going to go. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to introduce myself to Alan Rickman. It's going to be amazing." And I walked up to him, and I immediately lost the ability to speak the English language. It. I swear to you, this is what the conversation sounded like. How does yeah? Hi, Mr. Rickman. My name. Hi, Mr. Rickman. My name's Anjali. I'm in this show, and I just you're and God bless him. I know he wasn't making the Snape face, but I was seeing the Snape face because I was like, "What are you doing, Anjali? You are a giant failure as a human being."
Oh,
And God
God.
bless him. I do remember him saying, "Oh yes, I very much want to see that." And I was just like slunk off with my tail between my legs. But super, super Star Trek.
Mm.
Super, super, super. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Are you there? There we go.
back.
I don't know why my mail program decided to kick in and just like take over the computer.
Uh,
So yeah, that
that's
one was a big one.
that's so good.
A really big one. I did just 2 days ago meet a bunch of the cast members of Ted Lasso, and that kind of blew me away.
Mm.
I did have a moment. I got to present with one of the cast members, present an award with him, and I was just like, "You guys are the greatest thing ever in the history of ever!" Like wearing this beautiful cocktail dress and jewelry, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you guys!" I just turned into a big dork.
Fangirling out. I love it.
Great.
If you weren't acting, you would be.
Oh. It would be something to do with dogs. That would be happening for sure. Some kind of like dog relief, not dog relief, but like rescue organization. Dog relief sounds like I'm taking them out to, do their business outside. That animals, absolutely. I do think it would be something in the mental health profession. I really do. I think part of my love of acting is my curiosity about the human condition and how we tick and how we take care of ourselves and how we take care of each other. And I really think it's important that we take care of ourselves so we can take care of each other. I think we forget that.
Yes.
I think we think that we have to take care of other people before we take care of ourselves, but we're useless if we can't like put your oxygen mask on first. You have to. They
Mm.
tell us all that on the plane.
So
So yeah,
true.
I think it probably would be something in the mental health profession. See, I can't escape being a doctor. One way or the other, I would probably still do it.
Circling around it. What qualities do you admire in other actors?
Humility, um, generosity, like in terms of wanting to be like collaborative generosity, like we talked about, knowing that you are not the center of the universe, and humor, like the ability to take your work seriously but not take yourself seriously is I feel like the most famous and talented people I have ever met are the least egotistical. And I think that's because there is a part of them that understands that this is not about them. And it's really, and all of us think it's about them, right? Like it's just the most extraordinary. How could you not know how amazing you are? But that's precisely why they're so amazing, because they don't know or they don't care. They're just like, no, I'm just here to do the job. I'm here to hang with you. I'm here to make you look better. I'm here to play with you. That's very admirable to me.
Uh, we'll end on something most people don't know about you.
I am an expert parallel parker. I am a legendary parallel parker. I am so good at parallel parking that I have taken pictures of my parallel parking jobs just to remind myself on a dark day, you're good at something. It's parallel parking. It might not be the thing you want to be good at today, but you are good at something.
Is that the,
I,
like the,
I auditioned. I auditioned for a giant movie once, and I went to the audition, and my parallel parking job beforehand was so great that I didn't care how I did at the audition. I was like, "Look at my parallel parking job! Took all these pictures and everything." I was like, "Screw the movie! Look what I did!" So yeah, that's
awesome?
pretty proud of that one.
That's the hands of a surgeon, right? You know, you can
Hands of a surgeon gone to waste because I'm not saving lives. I'm just parking my car.
love it, love it. Anjali, where can people follow you? Where can they show support? You know, tease anything that you can coming up that they can check it out.
Sure. Well, I'm like I said, my email address is very easy. It's Anjali at iamfunsize.com. Not funsized, funsize.com. And then on the socials, you can find me at Sweet Anj, but with three E's because I'm a big spelling rebel. SWEEETANJ. Sweet Anj on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, which is also where the I Am Fun Size series is. And then on Facebook, it's Anjali Bhimani. Dude, if you Google me, you can probably find my home address. Everything's out there. And in terms of supporting, it really is just keep an eye out for I Am Fun Size stuff because it's coming. It's coming soon. It's probably the thing that means the most to me at the moment because of what I feel like it might be able to do for people. So showing your support for that would mean the world to me. I mean, yes, come see the things that I'm in. When you hear about them, I'm on a show. Please watch Ms. Marvel. Please check out the games. Please become a critter and play TTRPGs for the rest of your life. Please do that. But most of all, I just love having people be part of my community and say hi online. I love meeting new people.
Oh,
So please don't be a stranger. Don't be a
this
stranger. And I said this, I know I said this already, and I'm sorry, but I really have to say it again, especially to you guys. I know how hard life can be. Please know that the biggest act of bravery is that we need you here. And we don't need you because you're in the military. We need you because you're you. So if no one else has told you this, please, please, please know you would be wildly missed if you were gone. And if you are having trouble, reach out to someone because someone else will tell you that in a heartbeat.
That is so true. And you have one more question, which I'll answer for you. Will she do the audiobook version? Of course she'll do the audiobook version.
Are you kidding? I actually recorded the audiobook for the Kickstarter, and it was one of the most fun experiences of my life because the book reads like a conversation with me, for better or for worse. The book, I wrote it like that. So getting it to say these words to you guys, getting to say it to the people who are reading it was just loads of fun. Loads and loads and loads of fun. And I'm getting some of the Marisha Ray, who wrote the introduction. She's in Critical Role. She is doing the introduction in the audiobook. Yeah, like there's a whole, it's coming. That is definitely coming. 100%.
This has been one of my absolute all-time favorite conversations.
Oh,
thank you so much. Guys, what's left to be said? We're gonna have her back. You are now a friend of the show forever.
Please, you guys, please, because we have to figure out what your fans' names are.
we're gonna
figure this out. No, this is a thing. I'm on a mission.
Yes, it's a puzzle. It's a Rubik's Cube. We're gonna figure it out. Guys, this has been Anjali Bhimani. Find her everywhere, support her everywhere, keep an eye out for her. We'll share your stuff as it comes out, let the people know that it's there, and we'll definitely have you back for part 2 because there's so much we didn't talk about. There's so much.
I had such a lovely time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for just a really great way to spend an evening.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm going to go say goodbye to Anjali. I'm going to toss to a break. We'll see you more.
That was a terrible salute. I'm so embarrassed that I just did that. That was awful. I'm embarrassed. Don't be offended. I don't know even why I did that. That was probably the dorkiest thing I did all night.
You're in the medical profession. We'll let it go.
Pretend that didn't happen. Delete that from your memory banks.
All right, guys. I'm going to toss to a break. I'll be back with more right after this.